Hello and welcome to African Real Estate TV. I recently had a conversation with experts in the real estate field for an exciting project that we are working on. We'll tell you about that later. But for now, I'd like to share with you a part of the conversation that has the answers to some of the questions you have been asking with regard to tenant and landlord right issues. If you hear something that resonates in the conversation, do share in the comment section and remember to like and subscribe to the channel. We have amazing guests. Introduce yourselves. Karibuni sana.
Thank you.
My name is Nigel Ngugi, an advocate of the High Court of Kenya.
My name is Ben Liyai, Secretary General, Landlords and Tenants Association.
Karibuni to both of you. And I think we'll just start with Ben. First of all, I don't know how many Kenyans know that there is an association that caters for their rights to do with rental rights and if they're landlords. Tell us a little bit more about your association.
Okay, basically our association was registered in 2013 and we are not yet, in terms of awareness, very few know about our existence, even though majority of people who know about the association, that is Landlords and Tenants Association of Kenya, live in urban areas, more so in Nairobi. And of course, those who can be able to access internet.
Yeah.
So definitely if you go and Google landlord or tenant, definitely you'll be able to see Landlord Tenant Association popping up. But again, we've done a few activities within Nairobi in most areas. So I can say quite a good number of people also know about our existence. And
so does it mean you are also, because you said most of the people you have reached out to are in Nairobi or urban areas. Should someone from the villages, so to say, reach out to you, would you still be able to help them?
Yeah, we should be able to help because most of the time you don't need necessarily to come to our offices for you to get a solution. Most of our cases out of Nairobi are handled through maybe emails or maybe just your phone on WhatsApp, because an issue of listening to you, what is the conflict all about, and then we are able to either do a conference call or maybe do a letter that can be sent to you wherever you are. And the only thing you need to do is maybe to get into a cyber, print out the letter, then we tell you exactly what to do, where to take it for the other party to be able to receive the letter and of course act on it.
With more awareness, most people would be able to get the help that they actually need. Yeah. But also it leads us to people first need to know what those rights are before they now know that this is my right being violated, that I need to go and reach out to the association. So Nigel, what are some of the rights that tenants or landlords need to be aware of that they know, because if you don't have the knowledge, if you don't have the awareness, then you'll think, they're just messing me up, but if you know this is my right being violated, then you will be able to now reach out and get the help that you need.
Yeah, so I'll start with the tenants. So as a tenant, you have rights even before you move into the property. So the first right I'd say is the right to be free from discrimination. So this basically entails the fact that no landlord should discriminate against you on the basis of race or your religion or your sexual orientation or any other thing. So you should not be discriminated on that right. So you have a right to live in any area that you wish. And then now once you're in the property, you also have certain rights, which is like a right to maintenance. So the house should be in a good state. And before you move in, you should talk to the landlord. Make sure that things are working, like if the water should be working, electricity, and any small repairs the landlord should do. You also have a right to safety. So the landlord should provide a safe environment for you to live. This is also protected in the Constitution. Once you've paid rent, you have a right to receive a receipt for your rental payments.
Really?
Yeah. So this will come later on because once you want to move out and maybe the landlord is saying you've not paid rent for this certain month, now you'll have evidence to show that you actually paid.
Yeah, because I think nowadays most of the time our transactions are virtual. I just transfer my bank, the money to the bank and then there's no physical, but at least that is still a digitized way of receipt, I think.
Yeah.
Does that count in court?
It does count actually.
Okay.
Yeah, even M-Pesa receipts could count, yeah.
Okay.
Could use that as your evidence in court.
Yeah, incredible.
Most landlords and maybe estate agents, first of all, they do not understand what the deposit is all about. And in most cases, most of them they take the deposit as if it's per diem or their money or profits or something of the sort, because this money is paid and they spend it. So because of that, then when this tenant is moving out, now the issue of deposit is like, hey, now we are going back to our pockets to pay this person. So they'll do whatever they can to make sure that your deposit is depleted.
So that they don't pay you back.
Yes, so that if anything, you don't even get a coin. We've had a situation whereby someone is paying, a rent of 70,000.
Yeah.
When this person is moving out, we had a case of that kind of a complaint. The landlord took like 50,000. So the tenant came to us for us to be able to go through that process. In this situation, the tenant went through the house when she was exiting with a caretaker. And we found out that what was deflated was especially the paint. They'd taken almost like 30,000 for painting. It was a 3-bedroom house, of which when you try to see how many tins of paint were bought and all that, and then you approximate, and then vis-a-vis now the labor.
Yeah.
Then
it definitely doesn't get to 30,000.
Exactly. They say now take it like, let me say this should have costed maybe between 10 to 15K. So basically, you're not supposed to have taken
more than
that. So this one here is where we're not agreeing with you, so you have to pay back. And of course, there's a way we talk to the landlords, and they're able to oblige you that, because now what happens is that if they don't agree to what we are asking them to do, then now we tell them now we are now going back to find out exactly if you're running a business the right way. Because again, the other things that do govern a landlord, things like rental tax. Yes, things like, let me say, for instance, estate agents are supposed to register with the estate agents board at Ministry of Land and all that. Some of them, they don't do that. So like now, you tell you, if you don't do that, then we'll dig deeper to find out if you're really doing your business the right way, and nobody wants to get into that.
That's true.
I think Landlords and Tenants Association of Kenya is a body that the whole country need to know about that. Because what we do is more of like creating that awareness for people to know their rights as a landlord or maybe probably as a tenant. So unless that is done, then now that's when you get people into a lot of conflicts and they do not know what to do. But I'm thinking now, moving forward, what happens is that all our members, what we do to them whenever you come with a conflict, and I'll tell you like what is happening, that most of the members that we've been able to get are those who came in because they had a conflict. Kenyans do not get into membership unless they have a reason to do that. So when they come in, that the first thing we tell them is, this is what you need to do. You need to know that when you're getting into a house, you need to do A, B, C. Let me say, for example, within the lease, you also have to agree on what should be in the lease. Even though, again, another problem that we've realized is that when someone is looking for a house, this person do not have that time to like get to see where's the lease, what are the clauses that are in that lease.
Yeah, so sometimes you're just in a hurry to go to the next. Maybe you got a job in a different part that is more convenient for you to move.
And you've seen the house looks nice and you're like,
right?
Like
the lights are working, the water is working. Yes, that's the best thing.
The caretaker is telling you now, if you don't pay it by this time, someone else will come.
True. I actually was threatened into getting into my recent house, but anyway.
Yes.
It's okay.
Yeah. So, you see, when such kind of stuff happen, that's where you find that people just enter without even discussing. And you see, I'll tell listeners that if you're looking for a house, the moment you meet the caretaker or maybe probably the landlord, some of these questions you have to ask. First of all, the issues to do with the repairs. Who does the repairs? There's some landlords who do repairs for you within your premises for that stay. Because you see, everything has a lifetime. And some of the houses, they use low quality. Like, for example, the taps. Yeah. So you have this tap and then after some time it's leaking. So some landlords will do the repair on your behalf. So, and all these are things that are supposed to be covered within the list. Who does repairs when you are at this stage?
That is so true, because sometimes when these things happen, of course, they're bound to happen. Like taps could get spoiled, something could just go amiss. And then you're torn between when you call the landlord, because of course you have to inform them, I presume.
Yes.
Because you are making amendments on their property.
Yes.
So when you call them, they tell you to find someone to fix it.
Exactly.
And at that point, you're not sure whether they will pay them or you will have to pay them. You know, Nigel, you said something that landlords are not supposed to hold property should someone be having an issue, like they shouldn't lock their property in. And I'm thinking that is one of the things that happens a lot. especially not just in the urban areas, I think even up country. What are other rights that people have no idea about that they should know? Because people don't know this. I'm assuming there's so many people who go through these things just the same way they are not aware there's an association that can cover it. I think awareness is very important, because then if I don't know this is something that shouldn't happen, I won't be able to have the audacity to come and say, hey, you are violating my rights. You need to do A, B, C, and D. What are some of the other rights that people do?
So another right that a tenant has is the right to privacy. So once you moved into the place that you've rented out, you have a right to privacy. So your landlord cannot just enter your house at any time he wishes. He has to give you like proper notice, and then you have to agree to that. So you have a right to privacy of your own space. He can't just enter anytime. Yeah, that's another big one, because many landlords can just barge into your house and...
Yeah, I've had...
Yeah, that's not proper. They shouldn't be able to do that.
You can sue them.
Yeah, you can, because they're breaching your right to privacy.
Speaking of privacy and the notice that they need to give you before they show up, what are the parameters for if the landlord wants you out of the house for whatever reason?
Okay.
Should that have been covered in the tenancy agreement, or is there a specific law that says within this time, a landlord should give you this period of time before they evict you?
So the issue of eviction, mostly it's covered in the tenancy agreement. Yeah, and the standard clauses is the landlord should give you notice of, let's say, 30-day notice. So once you receive that notice, you can either accept it and then you move out within the 30 days, or you can reject it. Then all that will now lead to other litigations and maybe partnering with the trust. Yeah. But they have to give you the notice. That's very important. They can't just evict you abruptly. And they have to give you, as they're evicting you, they have to give you reasons why they're evicting you.
Someone said their wife quarreled with the wife of the landlord. Now, the landlord was angry and they were evicting the whole family. This is a man saying.
Yeah.
So they evicted. He gave him a notice like, by next week, you shouldn't be here, because the wives had a disagreement. Does that qualify as a good reason to evict someone?
My issue with that would be the notice period of 7 days. Yeah, that's way...
But the reason is legitimate.
It's all legitimate, in my opinion. It seems petty, but...
So the notice period would be the biggest issue.
Yeah. And I believe some issues can be discussed amicably.
Amicably, that involves Ben and his association.
Well, yeah, maybe, yes. Exactly.
Because at this point, I'm assuming both gentlemen are up on the heels, because the landlord is like, your wife cannot disrespect my wife, and this one is like, why are you chasing me out? So in that case, you come in and tell them.
Exactly. You see, like, basically, I was talking with Nigel before. Most of the conflicts that we handle, let me say 80% do not proceed to the court level. Yes, because when we meet these people, at times we are involved directly, or we just advise them on what to do and tell them, like, if you don't do this, this is exactly what is going to happen. So the first instance is for us to allow them to dialogue and agree by telling them, like, look, this, let me say, for example, you've locked my house.
Yeah.
The law does not allow that. If the tenant decides to take you to court, then you'll be on the wrong. But again, on the other side, you're like, again, your right is to pay the rent. So you cannot stay in someone's property without paying rent. Again, if the landlord takes you to court, then you can imagine you'll have to pay that rent plus other costs incurred. So the best thing is for you guys to agree on the way forward. So in most cases, most people, they end up agreeing on what exactly is supposed to be done. We only get into situations of writing demand letters or maybe proceeding to court into situations whereby one of the parties has just decided that I'm not going to heed to what you're telling me.
Oh, yeah. That's something I wanted to ask. I'm a tenant in this case. I bring a case to you. How do I reach? Do I give you my landlord's number so that you can reach to them, so that you can bring us together and now tell us these things that will help us resolve the issue?
When you call us, maybe lodging a complaint, what we do, we take your information. Of course, this includes your name, your house number, your estate, where you're staying, name of the apartment, maybe the nearest police station, and of course, the contact for the landlord or maybe the agent or maybe the caretaker. we get all that information. So for instance, you've complained that your door has been locked and the landlord is not listening to you and all that.
Yeah.
So we'll take the information from you. We'll do a demand letter. Now because you've given us the contact for the landlord, so we'll do that demand letter. Let me say you're in Machakos.
Yeah.
We'll send you a PDF demand letter on maybe on your WhatsApp. Then CC to the area chief, CC to the OCS. Yes, and we work in collaboration with the tribunal courts. We also sit at the court users committee as an association. We have a representative over there where the chairmen attend. So when we write this demand letter, it is copied to the tribunal, of course stamped, and then now we scan it, then we send it to you. So then we advise you to take it to the OCS for the OCS to have just a copy. The reason why we ask you to take to the OCS is that, like the police are not mandated to handle tenancy issues.
Oh, they aren't?
Yes, by law.
That is something I've also heard where a landlord says they'll call the police on you.
So they're not, unless there's some kind of criminality in that. Now, the reason of giving a letter to the police or the OCS is for them just to know that there's this conflict happening. So in case of any criminality coming out, at least they'll be aware of what is happening. So they'll do a stamp on the letter and then they give you. So that letter is what you're going to give to the landlord. So the landlord will receive a letter that is copied to the OCS, the chief, and the tribunal court.
How long does this process take? What if I have an urgent issue that I
This is a process that can take 30 minutes. Let me say if you've launched your complaint, maybe I do the letter. I send you the letter maybe within maybe 10 minutes or so, or maybe less. And then from there, you go to the OCS. For the chief, it's not really a mandatory. The most important stamp is for the OCS. And for the OCS, if you don't get the OCS, you'll go to the deputy. At least you'll be able to get one of those. So once you've done that, once it's stamped, we normally advise they don't take the letter directly to the landlord. Because I know him will tell you they have court servers or whatever, some sort. Of course, you have to pay them. But now these are a person who does not even have that money to pay and all that. So we try to do as much as possible for this conflict to be solved at the minimal cost. So you take a motor rider, pay him 50 shillings, tell the motor rider to take this letter to the landlord. Yes, so of course the motor rider will say this letter is coming from Landlords Tenants Association of Kenya. So where the tenant is not involved. Yes, so in most cases we normally give 7 days for action to be done, depending on the situation, either 7 days or maybe 24 hours, just to make sure that this is resolved.
As soon as possible.
Yes, so if it is not resolved, now that's when we can get into the other level of maybe say getting there physically or maybe now proceeding to court.
Wow, that's quite thorough. And I'm very appreciative that, you are making people aware of these things.
For me, I'd just like to basically just run down through the rights of both the landlord and the tenant. So for the tenant, you have a right to live in a habitable house. You have a right to maintenance of the house. You also have a right to privacy, which is enshrined also in the Constitution under Article 31. You also have a right to safety, which is also in the Constitution under Article 29. And you also have a right to receive receipts once you've paid your rent. Yeah, and it's also important for the tenants to know that it's a business relationship, so the landlord is not doing you a favor because you're paying rent. So you should also assert yourself.
Sure.
Yeah, once you know your rights, you should speak up. Don't just suffer in silence.
Yeah. But the first thing is awareness, and now that they are aware, then they may be able to speak up.
Yeah, and for the landlords, they have a right to receive rent. It's their right legally. At the end of the lease, they have a right to receive the property in the condition that they gave it to you in. Yeah.
All right. Thank you, gentlemen. Ben, he is the Secretary General, Landlords and Tenants Association of Kenya. And Nigel, he is the Advocate of the High Court of Kenya.